The Buccaneers have a golden opportunity as a huge win from the Seahawks, while shows a lot of great potential for our offensive capabilities. There's some defensive worries, to say the least, coming out of the game, and we're wondering, is there a solution? Is there a move that could be done that will unlock the Buccaneers? I'm Sebastian with Bucs Digest. Welcome back, everyone. I know we needed a little bit of time to process that game. I'm still recovering. That was an insane stream. I want to thank once again everyone who was a part of it. Can't wait to do more as we get ready for the 49ers. But this video is going to be interesting because we're going to be talking about while we want to celebrate obviously the fact that we're 4-1, top of the division obviously, but tied for the best record in the NFL right now and going up against another team that could be playoff caliber and could have some implications for seeding. It's going to be important to discuss maybe where our vulnerabilities are and if there are solutions to it. We've talked about special teams recently, but I want to talk about just defensively what happened within the Seattle game and maybe what we can do possibly, because I do think that there is actually a solution here. It would be a big swing, but I think a lot of people are in agreement here. The Bucs are maybe one piece away from making the Super Bowl, and even with all the injuries, it's definitely on the table. This team is so deep and so talented, but it can only amount to so much when we have as many injuries as we do. But first, before we get into it, subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. All the engagement free, and it really helps the channel. We're building an awesome community here, so join Bucs Digest and join the journey that we're going on right now. But let's just jump right into it. I think it's really important to acknowledge that the pass rush for the Buccaneers has been a bit lacking this season, and I think that was a big concern, something that the Bucs have kind of struggled with. Jason Licht does not have many flaws with him, but one thing that this front office maybe hasn't really done a awesome job of is drafting pass rushers. We've done we've taken a lot of swings in the past, but none of them have really come out as we hoped. Logan Hall, who's still on the team, is he's a good rotational piece, but he's not really like a true starter, a true difference maker, as much as we'd like him to be from being like a first round pick. Troyan Shoyinka, he's now on the Browns after, we tried to get him to be one of our new pass rushers. And so we bring in Hassan Reddick. Yaya Diaby is developing, but at the same time, you feel like, now being in year 3, he should be, doing better than what he is. Because now, once again, Vita Vea leads us in sacks. And we're, through 5 games, and it's, we're not very high in pass rush rankings. And Sam Darnold was just completely destroying us. And I feel like we wouldn't have had to worry about that. Even with our defensive, injuries, we wouldn't have to worry about that as much if we had an elite pass rusher. Someone to complement Vita Vea, who is just the absolute anchor of that defense. If he is gone, this team does not succeed, in my opinion. Same thing with Baker Mayfield, but Vita Vea just constantly a hero of this team that needs to be constantly talked about more and more in just the sphere of the NFL and the national media. But yeah, first things first is the fact that people are also, I don't agree with Booger too much from ESPN, but he did say that Tampa needs an edge rusher in the worst way. He made that observation during the game. And I couldn't agree more. I do think that this is a severe problem for the Buccaneers. Adam Slavin from Pewter Report had to say, for a front four that possesses a trio of Vita Vea, Yaya Diaby, and Hassan Reddick, you would expect more production. The only impact from them was a pass going through Diaby's hands on what became an 8-play, 99-yard touchdown drive. They have done well pressuring opposing quarterbacks up until this point, but there needs to be substantial improvement pushing the line of scrimmage back and forcing some bad throws that the secondary can take advantage of. The pass that Lavonte was able to intercept at the end of the game, it's important to note, is that it was bounced off of Logan Hall's head. It wasn't even really that bad of a throw. It was just it felt like more of a luck situation. But it was definitely skill by Lavonte, but to adjusting and intercepting the ball. But that's just something worth a note. And then Colin Halboom from Sports Illustrated had to say, although generating pressure can come in many forms, there's no question that the Buccaneers need more from their two starting edge rushers. If those guys are unable to start making some serious progress in that area, then Todd Bowles will not have the luxury of rushing the passer with 4 players. That would naturally take resources away from the middle and back levels of his defense, ultimately limiting the effectiveness of his scheme overall. If the team is unable to produce more sacks, not only will they need to consider bolstering their pass rush through trade, but they will face an uphill battle when it comes to reaching their goal of hosting the Lombardi Trophy at year's end. So where is this all leading, you might ask? If you could tell by the thumbnail, by the intro, we need an elite pass rusher. And I think that trading midseason for an elite guy, particularly with a team that has connections to the Buccaneers, would be it would be the move that completes this team, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people would agree that pass rush, we won Super Bowl 55 because we had an elite pass rush, that we had guys that were experienced in the area, but they were absolutely great at what they were doing. They're no longer on the team, that being JPP and Shaq Barrett, but now it's like there is that element missing, and at some point you have to acknowledge when you're in your window and when you need to make a move. The Rams made a move to get Von Miller when he was still relatively in his prime, and then obviously OBJ, but like that's what I mean. That's a good front office. That's a team that's willing to take a risk, and considering the start that the Bucs have had with this season, I think it's a matter of like, listen, we can keep trying to win by the skin of our teeth every week, which, don't get me wrong, I am very grateful for that we're 4-1, but it feels like, listen, it might not be the most sustainable thing. The Chiefs were winning a lot of close games last year, but then got blown out in the Super Bowl because the other team had the much better pass rush and much better just defensive performance. So there is a missing piece. So who are we talking about? It's none other than our guy, Maxx Crosby. Not our guy, but I'd like to be our guy. He has been an elite pass rusher for several years now, tormenting the AFC West on a bad team. That being said, he's easily their best player for years, really trying to keep the Raiders in a lot of games and making Patrick Mahomes' life a living what. So it's just a matter of, will the Raiders trade him? Because it's actually, Tom Brady is a minority owner there, has ties to Tampa Bay. Their GM, I don't think this is a coincidence, their new GM from this year is John Spytek, who was one of the assistant GMs in Tampa under Jason Licht. And considering how he helped construct Tampa Bay's current roster, the Raiders and Brady knew, this guy knows what he's doing. This guy's a brilliant mind. Let's bring him over to Las Vegas and see what he can do in terms of assembling our roster. So he made the trade for Geno Smith. That obviously hasn't gone well, but to be fair, the Raiders quarterback situation has not been good for a long time now. And he made a lot of other moves that a lot of people would consider were pretty good, drafting Ashton Genty and having a pretty solid overall draft from what it felt like when the draft happened. Now, that being said, the ties there, I do think, are really important. That there can be a mutual understanding, that the conversation between these two teams would be like, listen, you're an AFC team, we're an NFC team, we're not going to be playing each other for a little while now. Maxx Crosby, he's 28 years old. Listen, we want to get him while he's still in his prime and help us win a Super Bowl. But like that, obviously him being in his prime is going to raise the price. He just signed a new deal with the Raiders this past offseason, so people would be like, I don't know, Seb. Like, I don't know if that's going to be a move that the Raiders are willing to do, except for the fact the Raiders are in desperate need of a rebuild. More clear than anything, they're getting embarrassed week after week, and a move like this would be able to set them up. I mean, look at what the Packers did. They know that they are in their window, so they went and got Micah Parsons. Now, maybe Micah hasn't had the production that they've wanted yet, but that isn't to say that no team should do, that move, because elite pass rushers are game changers. I do believe Maxx Crosby is one of, you could argue, the 3 or 4, at very least top 5, because there's Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, Maxx Crosby, TJ Watt, and then after that, I feel like there's a bit of a drop off. But so I think it's worth it. I think that on a team like that, you could even argue maybe we should go get Myles Garrett, but I think that might be a little bit more difficult. Because we'll talk about in a bit that Maxx Crosby's contract is actually structured in a way that like a trade would not be out of the question. And so, but I want to talk also about just how Max feels about winning. This was a quote from before he signed his new contract, close to last Christmas. He said, "I fully align with. I got at the end of the day, like I'm not going to play the game forever. That's where it gets. You could ruffle some feathers, and people are always like, oh, he wants out of here, because I hear it all the time. People love to talk about me getting traded, and that's the reality. Like I earned that right to be in. You know what I mean? At the end of the day." I agree with what Miles said, Myles Garrett, that is. I'm in the same boat. I want to win. And obviously, both of them ended up re-signing with their own respective teams. But I also think it's worth noting that, like, Miles is a competitor. He is, a guy who wants to be in a winning organization, a winning culture. And at some point, you might just get burnt out of losing all the time. And it could be mutually beneficial for Max, the player, and also the team, the organization of the Raiders, like just hitting full reset. Like, because clearly what they're doing right now is not working. They have some offensive pieces to build around, but Maxx Crosby is easily their best player and a piece that would complete another like team like the Buccaneers, who are truly trying to contend this year and several years in the future. Because let's be honest, we're going to have to pay Baker Mayfield very, very soon. And the only way to really utilize this year in particular is go get a guy like Maxx Crosby now, and then, figure out the Baker Mayfield aspect of it later on, because I really just feel like Baker is going to, be paid like a top 5 to 3 quarterback very soon, especially if he wins MVP this year. So it's just a matter of how do we utilize this chance, this opportunity. I do think Max is one of those opportunities. Raiders beat themselves. So this is a Raiders website that said this. They said Crosby is the heart and soul of the Raiders, both in the locker room and on the field. It would take a massive trade offer to pry him away from the Raiders, but the details of the extension he signed in the offseason make it clear that the door was being left open to trade Crosby. Trading Crosby might seem unthinkable, but it was only 10 months ago that Crosby sounded like a player who was ready to leave the Raiders. If a couple of first-round picks are on the table before the trade deadline, it's possible Spytek and Tom Brady will consider hitting a hard reset on the roster and trading him. Yeah, I mean, so it's like the Raiders, the fans, they're ready for something new. They're ready to have, picks in their hands, ready. I mean, because let's be honest, the Raiders aren't going anywhere this season, and they know that they're going to have a top 10, if not top 5 pick in the upcoming draft. So then why not have, extra first round picks? I mean, the Buccaneers, we're going to have, probably a pretty high draft pick if like nothing disastrous happens, knocking on wood now. But it's just a matter of like, okay, you need more resources. You need more capital if you're going to go full send into the rebuild, which, would be the smart move at this point, because you're going to need a new quarterback, but you're also going to need new young players and, franchise, anchors to build around. So that's kind of where I would imagine the Raiders mindset is. And the Buccaneers are in a mindset of we have to win now. Like, we are in the Tom Brady window. We were making a lot of moves, signing players to bring in to try and maximize our ability to win trophies. And now we're in a new era where Baker Mayfield has emerged as an elite quarterback, very close to the top 5 conversation, and in the MVP, firmly in the MVP discussion. So it's like, okay, we have a really good thing going on. Our Emeka Egbuka is, easily leading the Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year conversations. So it's like, but the defense, that performance against Seattle, while as good as Seattle's offense probably is, and there's a chance that we see them again, we don't know if we can survive another shootout like that. I mean, we can if Baker plays like he does and we have our offensive weapons, but at the same time, that's a huge risk to take with just going to this pass rush that we have currently. They're not doing very well statistically, and it's just in need of a major upgrade. Just regarding just the contract details, the over-the-cap graphic that's in this picture shows the dead money consequence and future cap savings if Crosby is traded ahead of the June 1st, 2026. It's rare that a $30+ million contract per year comes with so much flexibility, particularly this early in the deal, because it's the first year of the deal. But it's true that there isn't a huge dead cap hit for the Raiders by trading him. Like they anticipated, unfortunately, if there's a chance that we're bad, that we can use him as trade value. And so I think it is worth for them to consider, like, okay, listen, this year's clearly a wash, and now it's time to like really make something happen to secure our future, because right now where we're sitting, we're not going anywhere. And Crosby, just as a man, as a player, as a competitor, deserves to be somewhere in a great organization that will, appreciate him, and he'll be trying to win games and win a Super Bowl. So, great culture guy, like I said, great heart and soul of their defense. And, listen, it's not that the NFC South is giving us, a ton of worries right now, but they could in the future. You never know. And, it's the rest of the NFC. We're going to battle with the 49ers and the Lions the next 2 weeks. We barely survived against the Seahawks. We didn't survive against the Eagles. Now, we have our own injuries, but at the same time, these are the guys that we're going to have to be competing against in the playoffs. We're going to have to win, 4 or 3 straight games, whether that's be like NFC and then AFC opponents, but those are going to be really hard games. And I don't remember the last Super Bowl winner recently that didn't have at least some kind of elite pass rush. And, unless, like we said, Yaya or Hassan have, a crazy explosion in terms of pass rush, we need an upgrade. And it's clear that other people are noticing it who are watching our games as well. It makes for exciting games because when we're in shootouts, everyone enjoys the back and forth aspect of it. But if you want to play complementary football, if you want to play winning football, we have to try and play a game that we completely dominate in all phases. And that's not something that's happening right now, whether it's special teams, defensively, starting off slow on offense. We're waiting to play a complete game, and I think the only way this happens, the only way we become the team that we know we should be, is by getting a player like this and doing away with, because we are strong in terms of drafting late. We find talent late in drafts. If we have to give up a couple first round picks, I think it's well worth the risk. But you tell me in the comments. What do you think about this trade proposal? Like, would you be okay with a couple first rounders to get Maxx Crosby, or do you think that it's not worth it? Save the money for Baker Mayfield and go with what we have, because I mean there's definitely a very interesting conversation to be had here. That it's not a simple decision. This isn't like oh it's so obvious. But I think personally this would be the best move. Even though Jason Licht is not known to make big trades like this, it's a first time for everything, and I do believe that it is on the cards. It's on the table, and it is something that they are considering. This is a winning team, and I do think that this is something that there's a possibility it happens. The Raiders are talking about it. The Buccaneers, sphere is talking about it. So you let me know what you think down below, and share your thoughts. And until next time, we'll talk about all things Buccaneers and getting ready for the 49ers game. But I'll see you in the next video.